Hey everyone, it's been a while since I last made a video, and now that Doom Eternal has been played to hell and back, it's time to dive into the back catalog of yesteryear. I've been playing a few older games over the past few weeks and wanted to share with you all why I think they're good games for quarantine. Now that we're at the end of the world with a lot of time on our hands, here's a few good games to waste it with. I've been itching to play a good stealth game lately, but didn't want to play through the latest Metal Gear or Hitman games again. I've sunk a grotesque amount of time into Hitman, and really wanted to hold off revisiting the world of Agent 47 until Hitman 3 comes out later this year. So where does it really leave us for options when it comes to stealth games? Well, Splinter Cell, of course. Come to think of it, there hasn't been a Splinter Cell game in quite some time. Over 7 years. Who knows why Ubisoft stopped making Splinter Cell games, but let's hope they revisit the series at some point soon, because the stealth genre is basically dead and could use a resurrection. As for the latest installment in the series, Blacklist, it's fun as hell. After revising the controls in the clunky Conviction entry from 2010, Blacklist delivers a perfect blend of stealth and action that just feels great. Stalk enemies from the shadows and use your environment to create opportunities. After every close combat stealth kill, you'll be able to mark enemies for a stylistic execution, where you then John Wick everyone in the room. And pulling enemies through a window never gets old either. For $30, you'll get at least 15 hours of solid stealth gameplay with well-designed maps that take full advantage of all the mechanics the game has to offer. There is some replayability once the story is completed, at least to go back and replay story missions with fully decked out gear. If you're looking for a stealth game to get through in a weekend, give Splinter Cell Blacklist a shot. Hollow Knight is arguably the best Metroidvania game of the last 5 years, or quite possibly ever. With the sequel Silk Song coming out later this year, I wanted to go back to the original and finally finish it. I played the game when it came out back in 2017, and I made it all the way to the last boss, but never finished it. Well, I can't exactly remember why I stopped playing. Since 2017, the developers released a ton of free DLC that I never got the chance to experience. So I went ahead and started a new game. This game is awesome. The combat is great, the music is great, and the art direction is great too. Every area of the game has its own personality. So when the inevitable Metroidvania backtracking trope occurs, it doesn't feel like a drag. It's also quite challenging. While most of the boss fights are quite simple, expect others like Nightmare King Grim to take at least an hour or two of persistent trial and error memorization. On those few occasions, I would compare this game to Dark Souls in terms of difficulty, though far and away 90% of the game is not nearly as bad. For $15, you're looking around 30 to 40 hours of gameplay if you're going for a 100% run. This is a massive time sink, but one you'll get a sense of accomplishment out of once the final credits roll. If you're looking for a Metroidvania with heavy platforming, killer combat, and entertaining boss fights, yet somehow haven't played through this one yet, then pick up Hollow Knight immediately. It's been a long time since I played through Far Cry 4, though not for lack of trying. While I managed to play it fine on my old PC release back in 2014, trying again years later proved fruitless. For whatever reason, the game would crash whenever I tried to buy a weapon. Since I picked up a new PC this past March, I decided to give this one a whirl again and see if a new CPU might solve the problem. Turns out it did. It's been 6 years since this game was released, and I gotta say, it's much better than 2018's Far Cry 5. Something about Far Cry 5's narrative just felt stilted or even anticlimactic, which reverberated throughout the rest of the gameplay. That's a shame because the narrative in Far Cry 4 is a lot more refreshing. The world of Kyrat just seems much bigger compared to Hope County. And I don't mean in terms of map size. To me, at least, the narrative is very tongue-in-cheek, very self-aware of the game's own ludicrous premise, and only wants the player to have a good time. Not only does Far Cry 4 offer up the usual Far Cry tropes of methodically clearing out outposts and radio towers to retake a territory, but it provides great secondary stories like the Sri Lanka missions or the drug-fueled psychedelic missions given to you by two stoners who you find squatting in your family's old home. For $30, Far Cry 4 is still a lot of fun all these years later, even if the textures look a little dated and the graphics are a little dodgy. There's at least 20 hours of gameplay here, and although there's a certain formula to all the quests, they never seem like a chore. It never takes itself seriously all the way until the final moments of the game where you can silence the antagonist if you've grown tired of him endlessly prattling on and on. It lets you play the game how you want, and it lets you conclude the story how you want. Come on, Far Cry devs, let's get back to this approach, eh? So there's my list of recently played games that are fun for the quarantine. If you haven't played through any of these yet, well, give them a shot. Or if it's been a while, think about revisiting them. That's all for me for now. Stay tuned for more videos like this in the future. In the meantime, take it easy!